the Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster feels more like a remake than just a simple remaster, with updated graphics, new accessibility features, improved AI, and even more. But let's start with the most obvious improvement, and that is the graphics. The visuals have come a long way since the original Dead Rising launched back in 2006. That 18-year gap, coupled with the RE engine, has breathed new life into the game, and Dead Rising has never looked better. The iconic Willamette Mall has been lovingly refreshed while staying true to its original design. All those familiar plazas and stores which we battered zombie skulls in before all remain intact, but with added detail and vibrancy.
Thank God.
Each time I ventured into a new part of the mall, I was hit with a wave of nostalgia, but with a slight twist of, this feels new. A standout for me was the reimagined outdoor area, especially the leisure park. That enhanced vegetation, the trees, and the grass slopes just make it feel more lifelike. And the pond really caught my eye for the first time Frank stepped outside, as usually that is such a forgettable part of the original game, and of course that part when you leave the plaza, go into Leisure Park and hear the blast of Gone Guru playing, is just magnificent. I'm so pleased that that is still in the game. Beyond the mall itself, the character models and zombies have also received quite the upgrade. Frank West, our protagonist, looks notably different. He's gone from a fresh-paced reporter chasing a story to a seasoned journalist who's seen it all. And after all, that makes sense because
I've covered wars, you know.
The supporting characters like Jesse, Brad, and Isabella have also been updated, making them more convincing while still retaining that original look. And who could forget the psychos? Those survivors turned maniacs are somehow now even more deranged, with the iconic enemies like Adam the Clown or Stephen the Store Clerk feeling more intense and sinister.
I don't allow vandalism in my store!
For the most part, the Deluxe Remaster stays faithful to the original game, but one surprising change is the voice acting. Now, to my knowledge, not one of the original cast members, one of the original voice actors, have actually reprised their role in this 2024 remaster. Now, it's not the worst thing in the world, as Frank's voice originally threw me off, but it quickly grew on me, as he still managed to capture that original sassiness and sarcastic tone and quick wit of the original voice actor.
Yeah, well, I'm freelance, pal.
But nonetheless, the replacement actor did a really solid job, and I think the voice acting in Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster is pretty damn good. It's very convincing compared to the original.
Follow me!
However, I did notice some slight censorship in Cliff's dialogue and a bit more censorship elsewhere as well, and I know the censorship has been a hot topic among the Dead Rising fans, as removing elements from the original game could be seen as a disservice or disrespecting the legacy of the original game. But I have been playing for around 7 hours now, and I gotta say, I didn't really find anything significant missing.
What do you know?
For instance, instead of erotic photos where you take a sexy picture of a zombie in a low-cut top, wow, that sounds weird, doesn't it? That's an oxymoron. You now take more humorous shots of zombies in ridiculous situations, like them wearing a hat or pushing a shopping trolley, which earns you plenty of PP nonetheless, like erotica content did.
Perfect.
Speaking of PP, the player is still enticed to kill as much undead as possible, as the game continuously rewards you with a prompt leveling system, ultimately making Frank faster and stronger. Combat retains its charmingly clunky feel, and the visceral whack sounds when you hit zombies are still as satisfying as ever. Furthermore, the gorgeous graphics and the tracking system of locations now have encouraged me to take more pictures of Willamette Mall than I ever have done before, thus gaining me a lot more PP quicker than I ever have done with a playthrough in Dead Rising before. Gone are those days of ticking off locations on a website or making mental notes to snag the Dead Rising achievements. This handy tracker is there for players at all times, which, in my opinion, is a welcome addition.
Perfect.
You might argue that this makes collecting things a bit too easy, but I for one really like the change, as it encourages more players to leave no stone unturned in this shopping centre. Accessibility is definitely a theme of this remaster, which is why it almost feels like a remake. Aside from the obvious graphical changes, the game now feels much more balanced. Checkpoints, skipping time instead of waiting around in them all, and moving while shooting are all a welcome addition. I'd even say that AI feels improved as well, because babysitting the survivors felt more manageable. They didn't just frequently get grabbed or purposely walk into a massive load of zombies. They even actually request weapons as well, so they can fight the zombies with you. The psychos felt more competent as well. For example, Steve wouldn't let me just stand on the aisle of the supermarket and be an absolute bullet soaker. Instead, he would try and maneuver around to get a better shot at me with the shotgun or try and run me over with his shopping trolley. Another example is that the convicts didn't get stuck behind trees like they used to do on the original game. Now, they do get stuck behind trees because that is the nature of how to defeat the convicts, but they don't get locked in a position and then you can leave and do whatever you want with it. They do actually now fathom a way out of those predicaments and come and chase you down. And for me, it makes the leisure park that little bit more intense now and balances it in a much more enjoyable fashion. And the majority of the boss fights I've done so far feel a little bit more difficult. Now, the last time I was playing Dead Rising 1, I was quite a high level with a lot of the best stuff, so possibly that is a factor. But ultimately, I just felt that the psychos gave me more of a challenge this time around. But ultimately and honestly, the Dead Rising Remaster retains that charm and fun of the 2006 original. I loved Dead Rising 1 and I've really enjoyed all of them as a matter of fact, but this one, I am thoroughly enjoying my time with it. There have been plenty of moments in Dead Rising's Deluxe Remaster that has brought a smile to my face as it just feels good to be back in this mall. Now, despite the voice changes and the minor censorship, this version to me feels like the definitive way to experience Dead Rising, and honestly, I highly recommend jumping in.